Hello, my loves. Welcome back to my channel. Today, I'm going to be sharing a story with you that I have never really shared before, actually, because it's been a long process of healing and acceptance and moving forward. So, in a recent video, I shared that I have lost two beloveds of mine at the age of 29. I've unfortunately already lost two, and the last one has been still pretty fresh, so I'm not going to share about that. I'm not ready to, and that one has been extremely difficult for me to accept. It's actually been the hardest death that I have experienced so far, and I'm not sure why, but I'm really sitting with myself and trying to figure that out. The first love of my life that I lost was when I was 21, just before my 21st birthday, and well, I'm going to share the story from the start with you, and I'm going to do minimal editing on this, so hopefully it doesn't go too long. But because I recently shared this experience with you guys, I received quite a bit of messages asking about this, and others sharing their experience of losing a partner and the love of their lives quite recently. So I was requested to share a little bit about it, and I thought I would just make a video for everyone, and maybe anyone out there who's going through this situation, who might feel really alone, who might feel like there's no one else going through this. Like, I really hope I don't stutter through this video. It's not easy for me. I have good friends of mine who have been close friends with me for the past, say, 5 years, and they don't even know about this because it's really something I've kept within. So anyways, I wanted to share it because people have been writing me, and I think it's very healing for us to also share our story, definitely. I've been writing my memoir up to this point of my life for the last few years, and just the writing process, even though I'm not sharing it with anyone yet, has been so healing, especially from these experiences of losing people that I love dearly. And I think me saying this out loud will also be healing, and I hope it will be healing for others who are going through a similar situation right now. So it's been a few years, it's been a while since my first love passed away, and yeah, I'll tell the whole story. It's basically, it was a big learning experience for me. He was the first person I ever knew who died. I didn't have grandparents or knew any older people, and I didn't really know anyone who died until him. So I'm just going to share our story. When I was 14, my parents moved me to a really crappy town. And if you're Canadian and you know Fort McMurray, you can probably agree it's not the most beautiful city in the world, and it gets to like -40, -50 degrees Celsius. That's like so cold you can spit on the ground and it shatters. So it's like this cold half the year. So as you can imagine, there's a lot of money there too because of the oil rigs. So people don't have a lot to do. You can't really go outside, and they have a lot of money. So there's a big drug rate, crime rate. It's not the nicest place, as I said. And my parents moved me there when I was in grade 9 because my dad had a job. And the school I went to was extremely rough. I saw my principal get stabbed before my first class on the first day. There was police officers, surveillance around the building 24/7. There was like some really bad I forget what the name is when they like initiate people into the high school. They basically like beat them up, put fish guts on them, all these horrible things. But luckily for me, I looked older than I was, and I was new, so no one knew I was in grade 9, which is when high school starts there. So I managed to get away from that, but I did get bullied and beat up quite a bit. I've never been a fighter, and gangs of girls would beat me up, and I've never hit anyone in my life. It's just not in me. So it was really, really hard for me, as you can imagine, and I stopped going to school. I was skipping school a lot. Anyways, I met my beloved at this time when we were younger, and he kind of took me under his wing in a way because he was very not afraid of anything, and he would stand up for me, and he didn't care who it was. If anyone said anything to me, he would protect me. And all the time I've spent with him in my life, I can say I've never felt that safe before. He was really someone who would protect the people he loved to any degree that it took, and made them feel safe and made them feel loved. So he was, yeah, my protector in that town, and we were together for the year that I lived there when we were young, and we used to skip school together, and I loved him a lot. I was pretty young, but he was my high school sweetheart, and then I moved away. So after just over a year of us being together, my parents moved me again. I moved a lot. I was always the new girl, and it was always hard for me because I always got bullied because of that. And once I moved away, it was really heartbreaking, but we said we'd always be together again. And then about 3 or 4 years later, like quite a while, we had just lost touch. He didn't really have social media. Social media was like just becoming a thing then. And we lost touch, and then he found me on Facebook one day, and I drove out. I think I took a bus like 18 hours to go see him, and we fell in love right away again, rekindled our romance, and I ended up staying there with him, living with him, and about a year and a half passed of us being together. And during that time, we were together every single day, and it was a very passionate love. And, okay. He was definitely my best friend, and the really crazy thing is, okay, the really crazy part is that we spent every single day together, and we never really fought, but there was a point where we were starting to argue, bicker a bit, because when you spend that much time with someone, that tends to happen. And one day, for the life of me, I still can't remember what we were fighting about, but we got in our first real fight where we both yelled at each other, and he threw something against the wall, and I was in shock, and I told him that I think we needed to have a bit of time apart. So I called my sister, and she drove like 14 hours to come pick me up. And we didn't really talk about it. He was really quiet, and this would have been the last time I ever saw him. He was really quiet. I think he was in shock too, because we never fought like that before. And we said goodbye. My sister drove me. Sorry, this is like, I've never really said these events out loud before. So anyways, me and my sister drove through the night and finally got to my parents' town, where my sister also lived at the time. And as soon as I got to my parents, I messaged him. I said, I don't want to break up. I love you so much. And all I could think about the whole drive was you. And he said, okay, good, because I feel the same way. And this was about 2 weeks before my birthday in October. And we decided to meet halfway for my birthday. And in the mountains. So there's these really beautiful mountains called Banff, which was in between where we both lived, and we were going to rent a really nice hotel room and make up in person, and then I would go home with him from there. So 2 days, or yeah, 3 days before my birthday, it was early morning, and I woke up, and usually he always texts me, "Good morning, baby," and there was no text from him that day. But I just thought he might be, getting busy getting ready for our trip together. And I went to the gym, and I was going for a tan because I wanted to look hot for him. And I was in the tanning bed, and I had my phone on the stool next to it, and I could hear it buzzing, going off buzzing. And I remember the second that I heard it buzz, I knew something was wrong. And he used to text me all the time. Like, he'd text me 10 messages at once sometimes. But for some reason, I just knew right away that it wasn't him, and someone else was texting me a lot, and it wasn't good. So I quickly went out of the bed, and the weirdest thing, I just knew something was wrong, and I was really scared to grab my phone. And when I get nervous, I was shaking. So I was shaking so much that my phone fell out of my hand. So I grabbed it, and I actually had to hold my hand. I knew something was off. I knew it all morning. And someone wrote me on Facebook that they're really sorry and they loved him a lot, and if I need anything, just let them know. And I actually threw my phone across the floor because I knew right away that he was gone. I didn't know how or why, but it was just a knowing without having to ask. And yeah, so the way that I dealt with it was to really push it out. And okay, I didn't go back to our house. I didn't go to his funeral, and I had a lot of self-hatred because I didn't do those things, and I felt like a really weak person because I thought his family's back there and I should be there. I was his girlfriend, and they wrote me, and I just couldn't bring myself to. And I saw our car. He was shot and killed outside of his car, our car, and I saw it on the news with the banners around it. And something in my brain just switched off, and I didn't want to accept it, and I didn't realize this at first. And right away, I began, first off, I want to say, if you're dealing with the death of anyone in your life, how you deal with it isn't wrong. So there's no rules with dealing with trauma and grief. And I put so much self-hatred onto myself because I didn't go to his funeral, and I read afterwards that his bullet wounds were noticeable, and I don't know if that would have been closure for me or if that would have really been too much and I would have just gone in a downward spiral. But I wanted to remember my beloved who was so full of life. I wanted to remember him that way, and I don't know if that's selfish of me, but I didn't want to see him with wounds all over him and lifeless. And honestly, I don't know if he would want me to see him that way, but so yeah, we deal with things our own way, and how I dealt with it was to basically pretend that everything was okay. I moved back to my parents' place. I was staying with them. I started going out with my old high school friends because this was in a town I used to live in, partying every night and drinking all my issues away. I thought I was totally fine. I was always busy. I was never alone at all, and this went on for probably a month or two until something weird started happening. I would get so drunk that I wouldn't remember what happened, and I would check my phone the next day and I would have text messages, drunk messages. And I still had his number in my phone. I used to listen to his voice. I had a recording of it and a video of him that I used to replay whenever I was drunk. But I started noticing messages to him when I would black out, and it would say, "Baby, I miss you," and "I wish you were here." And when I was sober, I thought, okay, I must have been going through a lot last night and had a, I wasn't feeling good. And then one day I checked it and it said, "Baby, please call me. I really want you here to meet my friends." And that's when I realized that I wasn't accepting his death, obviously. And when I got very intoxicated, because I didn't accept it, I thought he was still alive. So that's when I realized that I had to deal with it and stop pushing it away. And honestly, I didn't deal with it right away. I got into a very, very abusive and toxic relationship, and I really held on to it because I didn't want to lose him the way that I lost my beloved. So even when it was abusive, the new boyfriend would say things like, "Do you want me to die like him? Like, I'm going to kill myself if you leave me." Very, very toxic things. And this put me into this really horrible cycle of abuse for a few years, actually. And then when I finally got out of it, thank God that I had the strength to get out of it. And then I had to deal with my first boyfriend's death on top of all the abuse that I had been through, because I didn't deal with that. And that's okay. That's the way that I, processed it. I didn't process it right away. And I don't regret it. It was all an experience that I think I had to go through. And I don't think I would have a channel and be sharing this all with you right now if I didn't experience these things. So I really knew at this point that I had to deal with things head on. And I went to Thailand by myself. I was studying Buddhism, just self-study at the time. And a really crazy experience happened. First off, I got this apartment in this little town that was actually really dangerous. Didn't do my research beforehand. This was one of the first times I ever lived overseas completely alone. And it was a really sketchy neighborhood. There's a lot of drug deals and just like stuff going on. And I was in a convenience store, and this Thai man was saying, stock up, basically, there's going to be a really big storm. And I kind of laughed. I wasn't sure if he was serious, but at the time I was off of the internet and social media and everything, so I bought like these broad beans. I don't know if they're just these beans that are like crunchy to eat. I bought like 6 big bags of them and a bunch of water. And because I didn't know if he was actually serious, or else I would have bought more. But I brought them to my place, and literally like 3 hours later, I was doing yoga, and all of a sudden something hit my window, and this crazy, I think it was like a typhoon. I can't remember the name of it, some level that was like crazy. Anyways, the power went out. It was a huge windstorm. Everything was flying outside, and everything was dark. It was nighttime, and this went on for 2 days. I couldn't even leave my apartment. And 2 days in the dark, scared, feels like a lifetime. It was one of the scariest experiences of my life, because also in my building, there was these men that always saw me alone, and I only had this little door on my lock, so I was also thinking, like, they know I'm in here alone. What if they run across the hall and come do something? There's no telephones, there's no power. So it was frightening, and eventually I just laid there and meditated. I didn't sleep at all, and I was feeling like I was hallucinating because I wasn't sleeping. And in this meditative state, I saw my boyfriend who died, and he brought this light with him that held me and protected me, and through the rest of the storm, and I felt so calm, and I felt like he was really there. And it was the first time I ever had a very strong vision of him since he passed away. And I remembered how he felt and how he made me feel. And eventually the storm died down. And really I felt like he was telling me that it was time to move on, and that it's okay to move on, and it's okay to, you know, that I'm stronger than I know. Like, I felt he was holding me and telling me these things because I had felt so weak for a long time. And I remember going out on my balcony and this being like one of the most powerful moments of my life, actually. I went out onto the balcony and it was the first time I saw sunlight in a few days. And it was peeking through the clouds and shining like right towards me, and I just felt his presence so strong, and the wind came rushing on me, and I just felt like it was him kissing me and letting me go and telling me it was okay to move forward. And I thanked him and I let him go, and that was the moment that I think I got a part of my old self back. Like, I became my old self again, because I was really, like, out of the second relationship, I was like a beaten little puppy for a long time. I couldn't even look at people in the eyes. I was really different, and it was a really liberating experience for me. So, and after that, like, I began the process of accepting and of letting him go and knowing that it's okay to move on, because I think, you know, I'm just sharing this because for people who are also going through this, that sometimes we might feel guilty or feel like we have to be in that grief for the rest of our lives, because I know that I didn't want to be of disservice to him. Like, I felt like he deserved my grief. And when we think about it, you know, if I die, if I have a partner, I don't want them to spend their lives in pain. And yeah, I think, I don't know what else to say. That's my story. I'm just looking at the time. It's not too long, so. And yeah, that was really powerful to say out loud, and nice to talk about him, because I've missed him a lot. And sometimes I think of how my life would change if he was around, and then I see like people online like that remind me of him. Like, he was really mischievous and really liked playing pranks on me, and I just, like, earlier today I saw this YouTube of this guy just playing pranks on his girlfriend, and that's his whole YouTube. And I think this is why he was coming up today for me too, because I was just thinking that's probably what he would be doing if he was here now. So yeah, probably pissing me off. But anyways, I hope sharing this has helped some of you at all, and if you're going through this, don't be afraid to reach out and comment below. Let me know your experience and how you've processed and how you've healed. And yeah, life is crazy. We never know if tomorrow is going to be our last day. So make the most of it. And if you've experienced a loss, know that if they loved you, which I'm sure they did a lot, that they want you to move on and to live your life to the fullest. It's important to do that. And we still hold on to them, but it's the pain that we're releasing. It's not actually the person. I have this on me. We part only to meet again. So, okay, you guys, thank you so much for watching, and wishing everyone lots of love and healing. And I will be posting a video again soon.